Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I'm very fortunate that I can share some of my thoughts. We've had some great speakers. We've had Martijn and we've had Simon. Some of the stuff, they sort of laid the groundwork for some of the stuff I'm going to tell. I call my lectures, "The Future is Now." I'm not someone who looks into the future, because I don't believe in being a futurologist. And if you want to put a label on me, I call myself a science fact watcher. All I do is look at what's being developed now in the labs, maybe at companies. It's basically similar to what Martijn is doing. We're looking at what's happening now. But I'm going to focus a little more on specific things that have to do with your business. But to do that, I first have to come up with the next slide. You all know the humanization of pets is taking place. And I want to talk about this in the digital age. I was just introduced as loving my cat Billy very much. I am your ideal customer as far as pet food goes. For example, I love science and I'm quite skeptical about buying organic food for myself. I always read reports and then I think, they promise me if I buy organic tomatoes and cucumbers, I'll live another 25 years. I don't believe it. However, for my cat Billy, I buy the best. So I buy organic, even though I don't believe it. And that's typical of humanization of pets. We're making them bigger, even bigger than ourselves. And we love them sometimes even better than ourselves. And the same is happening in the digital age with gadgets and modern things. And I want to give you a bunch of examples of what's happening right at this moment by a bunch of startups. But to do that, I'm going to reiterate what Martijn, for example, did and what Simon also did. It's going so much faster than you even believe. And my way of showing that is, first of all, is the future what it used to be? No, it's completely different than we thought 5 years ago. That's one reason why I'm not going to predict what it looks like in 10 years or 15 years. I'm just going to show you what's happening now. But often when I give my lectures, people say, yeah, sure, science fiction. You're going to tell me a bunch of stuff and I don't believe it. It's really not going that fast. Well, for that, I have a nice little slide that takes us back in time. Imagine, for example, I have never been to Madrid and tomorrow I'm going to go for a walk. Imagine it being the year 2000 and look what my backpack contained. If this was the year 2000 and I'm a tourist in Madrid, I would be walking around with a paper map. The GPS was, for the consumer, was introduced 2 years earlier, but only 1 million of them had been sold. Digital cameras. Nikon had a digital camera that took pictures that were unusable, cost $6,000. I think Kodak had the first 0.3 megabyte pixel camera. And the iPod wasn't there either. This is the year 2000. It's only 15 years ago. You were walking around with a CD Walkman. Now let's step ahead of time. Let's go to 2007. Yep, there it goes. Apple introduced the iPhone, 2007. Not only in 7 years did we go from a paper map, an analog camera, and a CD Walkman to an iPhone that contained everything that we had in the year 2000, but in a digital form. It's basically what Martijn said, you have 80,000 tools in one little device, but it did so much more. That's also when the first crowdfunding type of thing started. And now let's step to 2014-15. This is a little movie I'm going to show you about, well, disruption. You can call it disruption, but I hate the word. All these technologies, we've heard the examples already. If you're not on top of it, your business is going to disappear. And this goes for everything. I don't want to call them disruptive. I want to call it opportunities. And this is an app that's going to change education. Math teachers, you better wake up because times are changing. about the disruption. This is going to change the classroom. We've heard many examples from Simon and from Martijn. What will change, and this is going to continue, and it's the pace at which this is going to continue is going to go faster and faster and faster. And I'm going to pick out one of them. We're in the middle of it. We've already heard it. Martijn had that pebble. The general term for those things are wearables. Basically, wearables are electronic things you can wear that have some artificial intelligence in them. And we're in the middle already of the digital industrial economy. So soon, intelligence will be everywhere in every object. And not only that, it will be connected to everyone and everything and anything. And I take that quite literally. So I imagine 10, 15 years from now, you can ask me, you can zoom me to any place in the world, whether it's the Himalayas, a forest, or right here. But everything around you, everything you look at will have some form of artificial intelligence in it, in the form of electronics, connected to everything. And I mean, this floor, the doorknob, my clothing, the roof, the window, outside the sewer system, the cars. Of course, we already have connected cats. He gave the example of the chipped cat. Your loved ones, it doesn't matter. He gave the example, Martijn, of Elon Musk, who is a crazy man that's going to change the world. Well, one of his projects he announced 2 weeks ago is to build a new satellite system around the Earth, which gives everyone on the planet very cheap internet. I mean everyone, that's his goal. But he also wants to connect the planet Mars. He wants that planet. So people used to call this type of thing the Internet of Things. But it's a very, very old term, because what it should be called is the Internet of Everything. It's not just about objects. Simon said it. It's machine to machine, but it's also human to machine, back to humans. And that's changing at a pace we've never seen before. Now, often when I tell this story, people say, Nah, I don't believe that. You just said that everything that I look up in the future will be connected and intelligent. Now, I have an example of something you would have never imagined 2 years ago that would get connected. This is, I think, one of the first forks they ever found, 2,500 years ago in the Bronze Age. And it has 2 prongs. The only evolution we've seen of the fork in 2,500 years is that now it usually has 3 or 4 prongs. And then suddenly it's the year 2013-14. And we have the Happy Fork. And the Happy Fork is world's first USB Bluetooth connected fork, which requires you to read the manual, synchronize it with your PC before you can use it to eat a meal. Can you believe it? That's a mouthful. Is it useful? No, I bought it. I bought it through the crowdfunding site Kickstarter, waited a year, spent $100 on it, and it's a total useless device. What does it do? This company had put some resources into the idea that they read a scientific article that one of the reasons we're getting obese, just one of them, is if you eat really fast, that's not good for your digestive system and you start growing. So they made this electronic fork that I have to charge every meal, and it measures how fast I'm eating. And it does this, the moment I touch my lips, it sort of short circuits. I have my iPad right next to me, and wah, you're eating too fast. Now, is this a device we want? No, it isn't. Just imagine taking your family to a restaurant, and there's 5 of us with 5 happy forks eating, having lunch, and there's alarms going off all over the place. So why am I giving you this example? I'm telling you this. The unimaginable is going to get electronics. Whether we need it, okay, this will die, this will go away. But it's just to illustrate how fast these things are developing. And they're already here. We've seen it from Martijn, and we've seen it from Simon. Smartwatch, Google Glass, the one all the way on the upper left. It's a Band-Aid with electronics in it that's wireless connected. This is already here. At the bottom, you see a prototype window from Samsung. It's a window. It's also basically a transparent LCD screen, just like your TV. It's a solar panel on the outside. If you touch the window in your house, this future window, it has apps on it. If you, for example, they show the app, you're looking outside and you see the sun shining, but this app tells you that the sun is really shining outside. Really something we need. And if you want to close the curtains just like that, you just press a button and you don't have physical curtains, but the LCD just shows like you have curtains and it's all dark. And the other one, the other example, that's a company in the US that puts sensors in trees, in forest. And they're wireless sensors. And these wireless sensors sense when there's a fire in the forest and automatically warns the fire brigade that there's a serious fire in the forest. A few more examples of connected devices that are already on the market today. We have the asthma puffer. It's wirelessly connected to doctors, has Bluetooth in it, GPS. As soon as a patient takes a puff, it's registered in a database. Doctors get insights in how things with pollen are going. On the other side, we have a sewer system. Modern sewer systems are all measured and with all sorts of sensors. We even have pacemakers with Wi-Fi that are connected to the doctor. We have the famous diapers. As soon as your daughter or son does a wee-wee, mom and dad, his mobile goes off. And in 2009, a Dutch company implanted, just like our cyborg Martijn there, implanted chips in cows, which connected the farmer to the cow. And here again, you see, it's not about things, it's about animals, it's about trees, it's about things, and that's why it's called the Internet of Everything. And it's huge. We've seen some figures before. This is an ancient graph, because if you look at, well, you can't see it at the end, but it's a 2011 graph. That's like Jurassic Park. That's 3 years ago. And they estimated, Cisco estimated 50 billion connected devices in 2020. No one really knows how many it's going to be. Some people say, no, that's exaggerated, but I've heard figures of 200 billion. It doesn't really matter. The message is we're getting connected, seriously connected. And it's not just about gadgets. This, for example, is my favorite device or thing that I use at home. Philips came out with, you call them internet lights. That light bulb you see in that picture. It's a smart light. And the first thing you think, okay, smart light, I put it in my room, and now I can control it with my smartphone. When I go away, I can turn it off, turn it on. It can take every color of the rainbow. Big deal. It's all very nice. But that's not what this technology is about. It's not just about making it more convenient. It's changing everything, because this light, when I leave home, it automatically goes off because it knows that I'm leaving my home, and when I come home, it automatically comes on. But that's still just technology. But I also have a heart rate band at home, that if I exercise in my house, my lights show my heart rate. So it's connecting me with a new device. Just recently in Las Vegas, we had the Consumer Electronics Show. This is the largest show in the world as far as the newest gadgets and electronic stuff. And they introduced an incredible amount of wearables and intelligent smart things. And this is one of them. It's called the Luna. The Luna is a smart bed. It tracks your heart rate. It tracks your heartbeat, your respiratory system. It knows when you're going into deep sleep, when you're in a light sleep. And I can connect this bed, which is actually connected with my body, to the hue lights. Because there's this theory that the best way to wake up is the moment you're in light sleep and not when you're in deep sleep. So all these modern devices, they measure how you're sleeping and they know, oh, he's in that light sleep. This is the time to wake you up. Otherwise, you're really grouchy for the rest of the day. And this thing will wake you up by letting the lights go on slowly. So it's connecting one device to the other device, and it will, in the future, will be connected to your coffee machine. So it starts heating up, etc., etc., etc. It's going really fast. And much of this is called the quantified self. It's basically a hip term for measuring yourself. And I have a few examples of stuff that was introduced 10 days ago at the CES. There's an electronic sock you can wear, which does the same as, for example, a Nike shoe. It keeps track of how many steps you took and how many calories you burned. But it goes one step further. It also shows you, it's measuring how you're running and showing where you put your weight and whether the shoes you have are the correct ones. That's the orange and green thing in the upper left corner. It's a pacifier for babies. It's an electronic pacifier. It keeps track of the heart rate of the baby, whether it's healthy, etc., etc. I don't know if everyone can see it, but below here, what you see is called the belty. The belty is a belt, and it's even worse than the hoppy fork, because what does this thing do? This is really, the hoppy fork we might need, but this we really don't need. This thing has little motors built in, so when I sit down, my belly goes out a little bit, and it loosens the belt. And when I get up, it automatically tightens the belt. Of course, it measures your exercise, keeps track of that all on the dashboard. And the last one in the lower left corner is a little device you put on your baseball bat, because that's what was happening at CES this year. The quantified self, the wearables were just exploding on the market. I'm just giving you a couple of examples, but they introduced, for every sport imaginable, there's tennis rackets that measure everything. Whether you're weightlifting, you do yoga, there's an electronic yoga mat. You go on and on and on it goes for your children. And the same goes for medication. This is the last one, and we'll get to the next one. It's even medicine that's getting electronic. This is on the market, a company called Proteus. And this is meant for example, people, elderly, that have memory problems, and you want to track whether your mom and dad took the medication. In these pills are microchips, tiny, tiny microchips. The patient puts on a patch, and when they take the pills, you know, as a family member or as the doctor, that they took their pets. But their prototypes are miniature laboratories, because they're really measuring the heart rate, the respiratory system, all the important physiology things about a human, and connect that wirelessly to the doctor. Martijn showed it's called the Scanadu Scout, or Scout Scanadu, what's it? Yeah, that device, he said, that will measure everything. It's basically your internet of everything, doctor electronics. And this is another example. And the same thing is happening with the quantified pet. We already saw one slide from Simon with the, what was it, the Petsy Connect? Little camera that you can communicate. While we're in Madrid, you can communicate with your dog or cat at home and reward them with a little gift, a little treat. I have 4 examples of what was just recently introduced. And instead of me telling you exactly what to do, I'm using their little marketing things, their marketing movies, to show you what these devices are. I probably have to aim that way. Smartphone or your tablet, and it's even connected to your pet, so you automatically get warned when it's all wrong with your dog. Of course, that's not good enough because we don't want to lose our dogs. So there's another company that's making a dog collar with GPS in it, so you can track your dog where it is. I don't know if they have one for cats yet, but which I think is even more appropriate because cats have a tendency to just wander around, and usually people have their dogs on a leash or in a controlled area. And of course, this thing also measures your heart rate, or not your heart rate, but the dog's heart rate. Like that other one, the Petcube Connect, there's another. This one I'm not going to show you. It's not that fun. Sorry. This one. We need a little fun and games too. So we already saw the Petcube Connect as a webcam, and then the pet, you talk to the pet and it gets a treat. I think it's a bad thing. We should, like with children, we should be home more for our pets. But okay, that's modern society. We're all working. So if you want to stay in contact, you can buy the Pet Connect.
This is a Petcube camera. To understand what it is, you have to meet Jenny. Say hi, Jenny. She reads a lot, she runs every morning, and tries to practice banjolele daily. Jenny has a dog and a cat, and another cat. This is what she used to do before Petcube. Exercise cat, trampoline with dog, ask Mrs. Robinson to kitty sit. Leave home. Use cheap spy cam, see dog eat shoes, come back. Try to work from home, fail. Start all over again. And then, Jenny got a Petcube camera. Oh yeah, he heard that. With a Petcube camera hooked up, Jenny exercises her pet while having a lunch break with an exciting laser pointer catch game. Jenny shares access to her Petcube camera with friends and family. Her niece, Becky, is 8, and she can do this for hours. And so does Chris and Rachel. And with the new Petcube mobile app, there's a new special place for all Jenny's funny pet pictures and videos. Now you've met Jenny. She loves her pets. And Petcube helps her stay closer to her furry loved ones.
So it already incorporates all that humanized technology. The cat's even getting a social network almost. And the last one I have for you, this is another one. This is the most advanced of them all. This is a smart pet feeder. Just watch the movie. This thing also has cat face recognition. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is the end of the movie, because that's about you guys and potentially something to think about. How to use technology and incorporate it in pet food.
Have you ever worried about your cats when you're at work or on vacation? Are they eating regularly? Are they drinking enough? Cats are not just our pets, but also beloved family members. So naturally, their health management is critical to us. That's why we built Bistro, the ultimate health monitoring solution for your beloved pets. Bistro is a smart feeder that keeps an eye on your furry friends when they're home alone. Since cats cannot speak for themselves, Bistro does it for them. If any change in her appetite occurs, Bistro will notify you immediately. By using cutting-edge cat facial recognition technology, Bistro always knows exactly which cat is feeding. With the powerful Bistro app, you can easily check your kitty's diet history and watch her live while she's having her lunch, all from the palm of your hand. You can also share your cat's most adorable moments with friends, subscribe to their posts, and meet cat lovers from around the world through Bistro's online community. What's more, Bistro suggests healthier food options to help keep your cats in shape based on our powerful analytic platform.
Did you see that last one? Advice, better pet food based on our, that's where your opportunity is. Because think about it, what does that remind you of? It reminds you of the inkjet printer that you give away for free, and then you spend a fortune on inkjet cartridges. You get people hooked on that. It's the same as the Senseo Sarista. You buy the coffee machine and then you buy pre-packaged deals with coffee beans in them, because we're too lazy to pour some coffee beans in a canister. It's a whole marketing thing. And the same goes for dishwasher soap. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but think of it. Technology, a pet feeder, and then you are in contact through with that crowd, and you could sort of get your food in the same way as this. Something to think about. And one of the things they all have in common, all these products that I showed you, whether it was the wearables for the humans, just about every one of them, or the quantified self devices for these dogs and these cats, they all had in common that these products were crowdfunded. I don't have to explain, because Simon did it better than I could ever explain. The thing I want to say about crowdfunding is not just about getting money in a new way. To me, what's more important about crowdfunding sites is that instead of doing all sorts of market research and specialized consumer groups that cost you a fortune, you spend some time showing the product through a crowdfunding site. And if the crowd thinks it's a bad idea, they're not going to fund you. End of story. And you haven't lost that much money. And it's so important that big companies now, like Sony, they're also starting to crowdfund products. They won't say Sony, but they will mention Sony's behind it, because it's a test case. It's a very important test case. So even if you think, yeah, but I don't know anything about technology, I don't have the means, that's disruptive thinking. Opportunity thinking is, it's already been told, you can ask the crowd to help you. The tools are here. Crowdfunding. There's another tool. Anyone can make a wearable. Intel just announced on the CES the Curie. Martijn showed us a little piece of electronic, $20. It's called the Arduino. Basically, what Intel just introduced is this little coin device. It's got all the electronics and all the sensors. And you find a 20-year-old kid that can program. And he can take this Curie and he can make you a dog belt, just like we saw earlier. And the next thing you would need for that would be a 3D printer. We've already heard they're all over the place already. Now, of course, a 3D printer, you could use it to, this is an example, there's this one company that lets you take pictures of your dog. You don't have to scan the dog or the pet. You just take pictures from every angle. And 2 weeks later, you have your pet 3D printed in plastic. But that's not very exciting, because with 3D printing, it's one of those many tools that the earlier speakers talked about. They are really changing the world. And by now, we can print anything. The middle one, that's a Dutch artist who wants to print that house, and he's working on it. We can print bionic ears mixed with electronics in it. We have the infamous example of the American guy who really wants to trigger the discussion about printing guns. And in the medical world, they're printing skulls. They're already starting to print prototype organs. And they're already starting to print veins. And they're actually starting to use it. But you in the industry can also use 3D printing in one way or another, because basically these tools allow you to create whatever you want. Your imagination is the limit. And here I have a little movie of it's sort of a tearjerker movie, because this is a dog who'd never been able to walk because he's got misformed front legs, and then they just used a 3D printer.
I don't become impressed very quickly, but when I saw him sprinting like that, it was amazing. It just, I couldn't believe it.
The first time he was put on them and he took off running, he was just so happy. I was absolutely amazed at how well he did.
He runs with Sherry and myself every day, at least 2 to 3 miles. He runs faster than both of us. He never really tires out. He's just so happy to do that.
This is what 3D printing is all about. To be able to help anybody, dog, person, whoever, to have a better life is just, there's no better thing to be involved in.
That just shows you that technology, you can do anything you basically want. Now it gets a little bit scary because now I'm going towards biotech. Martijn already talked about it by being actually sort of a cyborg. But I want to see it as an opportunity and show you something about what might be the future of pet food. Of course, we all know the dogs and the cats generally like meat-like products, and meat is an environmental disaster. It's cattle, etc. There's all these issues with it. And in the Netherlands, they have grown the first lab burger. They're basically growing meat in the lab. They use stem cells for this. And let's just look at the lab burger, which was the first one was eaten in 2013 on TV. Let's have a look at that.
The world's first lab-grown burger has been cooked and eaten at a news conference in London. Scientists took cells from a cow and turned them into strips of muscle, which were then combined and made into a patty. English chef Richard McGowan was given the task of preparing the burger for food critics Hanny Rutzler and Josh Schoenwald, who overall gave a positive response. Researchers say the technology could help with meeting the growing demand for meat worldwide.
Well, I think most people just don't realize that the current meat production is at its maximum, and it's not going to supply sufficient meat for the growing demand in the coming 40 years. So we need to come up with an alternative, there's no question. And this can be an ethical and environmentally friendly way to produce meat.
Professor Post is using similar techniques to researchers involved in growing human tissue from stem cells. He instead is focusing on tissue and fat for food. The scientists involved in the project reveal that at the moment they can only make small pieces of meat. It's also been revealed that funding for the project has come from Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google.
Lab-grown cans of cat or dog food, because this particular burger costs $250,000. So we're still a ways off. And now it gets scary for a lot of other people, because I'm going to talk very briefly about genetic modification. We all know Monsanto, horror company. However, I feel that it's important to tell you about what's happening right now, because this is, first of all, it's unstoppable. We should talk more about it and not hide ourselves. And it's not all bad, but I'm going to show you something that's mind-boggling, how far we are already with this technology. So, genetic modification, basically you take biological parts, you take genes from one species, doesn't necessarily have to be from a different species, but in this case, and mix it with another species to create or manipulate or modify life. And the fascinating thing is that it's actually very easy to do, relatively speaking. We are now at the stage that, let's say I want to make a bacteria glow green when light hits it. All I have to do is order the parts online, and they mail the genes to me. And these things are called biobricks. So there's a database online, and you just look up, you say, hey, I have a bacteria here, I want it to glow green when I do this, and you can order the parts. And the design of that living thing is done with a computer. It's like a drawing program. It's not just in a lab mixing things and then hoping something comes out of it. No, they have a computer program, and they say, we want this, that, press the button, and we order these parts. And here they explain how that process works, and also how they're taking care of it, that this doesn't get out of hand.
So exactly how do you make genes from scratch? Well, let's say you want to make a gene found in ocean bacteria that turn cells blue. First, you need to know the gene's recipe, which is comprised of molecules called nucleotides that are commonly known by their first letter, A's, T's, C's, and G's. Then you can tailor that gene, modifying it to fit your needs. So you use a program to specify things about it, like how blue it makes the cells. Then just submit your order via email, and firms like DNA 2.0 and Menlo Park will actually build it for you. This machine, the DNA synthesizer, does the first step, the assembly of single strands of the gene from sugars and phosphates. Based on the length of the gene, it can take from 4 to 10 days. The cost? Roughly $1,500 for this particular gene. When it's done, our gene is mailed off. Then, just mix the gene with water and bacteria cells, and voila! Cells that turn blue. Custom genes made to order. And though they're built into living cells, the process is one of renovation, not creation.
We are not creating life. We are modifying biological systems. And we're doing so in a more predictable way than we were ever able to do using standard genetic engineering techniques. We're essentially making the engineering of biology more predictable and therefore safer.
So what's to stop someone from going online and ordering genes for a lethal virus?
We've actually gotten gene synthesis companies on board to screen all of their gene synthesis orders so that they're not sending out genes that would encode some toxic protein.
So it's not as dangerous necessarily as you think. There's for example, in the US, talking about biohacking, we're still in the lab with professional people, but in the US they already have 2 or 3 labs, community labs. And when you go there on Saturday morning, you see mom and dad with their kids hanging over Petri dishes, modifying bacteria to glow green or do whatever. So it's already just like going to knitting class. They have community labs where you and I can go to learn the first techniques of biohacking and of the biological age. And another example, that's my last slide, is that students are worldwide doing this every year in a competition. And that competition, so they're designing new biological things. And I think if you realize the potential of this, it might sound scary, but this is not going to stop. And this could have a very big impact also on the food industry. If you combine growing a lab burger with stem cells, with bacteria that you can modify to do whatever with food or create biofuels. Well, this little movie is about iGEM. That's the name of the competition, and it stands for Internationally Genetically Engineered Machines. And worldwide, students in their spare time, they order parts from the BioBrick registry, and then they build the craziest stuff imaginable. So some students are working on bacteria that secrete calcium with the idea of repairing concrete bridges. If there's a crack in a bridge, you smear these bacteria in the bridge crack. They secrete calcium or whatever stuff needed to fix the concrete crack, and then they die off. In the Netherlands, there was one group who designed, whether they made it, I don't know, but they were working on a biological TV screen where bacteria had the colors red, green, and blue. It would be the LCD, an organic LCD of the future. And this example, is also, by the way, an example of a Dutch group. I chose them because they were the world champion iGEM 2012. And what they did is modify bacteria so they could smell whether meat was still good or bad. So if the meat went off, if it went bad, these bacteria would turn yellow, and they put these bacteria in a little sticker called the food Warden, and this sticker goes onto meat packaging and visually shows you if your meat is off, which theoretically is a much better system than looking at the date.
bouwen. Studenten uit verschillende studierichtingen, ieder met een heel eigen inbreng, maar met één duidelijk omschreven doel.
We wilden een bacterie maken die kan laten zien wanneer je eten niet helemaal goed meer is. Het is eigenlijk een soort van versheidsverklikker. Wij zijn een team voor de iGEM. iGEM is een internationale wedstrijd. Het is een zomercompetitie, dus we zijn de hele zomer bezig geweest met het ombouwen van een bacterie. En het idee is dat als je die bacterie hebt omgebouwd en het de hele zomer voorbij is, dat je dan dat aan de andere teams van de hele wereld laat zien wat je hebt gedaan. Dus dat was afgelopen november uiteindelijk.
Studenten die wereldkampioen werden en van iemand die het kan beoordelen de complimenten krijgt.
Het is geweldig, iGEM wereldkampioen. We zijn heel trots op dit team. Het is niet niks dat je wereldkampioen wordt in synthetische biologie. Ze hebben topteams uit Harvard, MIT, Shanghai verslagen. En ze hebben dat geheel op eigen kracht gedaan. Ik denk dat een aantal succesfactoren voor dit team waren dat ze heel zelfstandig waren en toch goed in teamverband konden werken. Veel creativiteit en originaliteit en veel doorzettingsvermogen. En dat zijn precies de dingen die je in onze onderzoeksgroep
That was
ook
my
nodig
last
hebt.
slide, but the whole mission of mine was similar to Martijn's and Simon's lectures. The world is changing at an incredibly fast pace. And if you go like this to everything, you won't last. Don't look at it as disruptive. Look at it as an opportunity. For example, with the Internet of Everything and all these devices, I think the market for that is huge. And perhaps I inspire you to think a little bit about this. This is still, specifically this is 10, 15 years before that will influence the food industry. But the other technology, it's here and it's here to stay. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great conference.